Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Talking Disney Classics podcast. This is the show where we talk about the Disney canon, and we are letting the random number generator decide which films we are going to be talking about. And this month, the generator gave us Fantasia 2000, but you can't really talk about Fantasia 2000 without talking about Fantasia. So we just decided to talk about both. It's going to be super fun. This is like cartoon lover Nirvana. And I am film critic Rachel Wagner. Stanford is here.
Hey, how's it going?
And we have a special guest today. This
Yes.
is so exciting. We have Matt from Animat over on YouTube. Matt, thank you so much for coming on and talking with us.
Yes, thank you, Matt.
Hey, it's a real pleasure to be here, and especially the fact that we are talking about Fantasia, I am absolutely open to do so. I remember when you told me, when I invited you, Rachel, to my podcast that you were doing this, I was like, hell yeah, man, like having the opportunity to just fully talk about Fantasia, I'm down for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, why don't, if there are people who are listening that aren't familiar with you and your channel, why don't you introduce yourself?
Okay, so my name is Matt Brune, but people on the internet know me as Animat from my YouTube channel, Electro Dragon 505. I am both an animation historian and a animation critic, where I mainly review and I mainly look into animated features. I have a few series, but the more notable ones include Animation Look Back, which looks into the history of animation studios and renowned animators. I just finished a massive history on Walt Disney Animation Studios. And there is also Animat's reviews and Animat's classic reviews, where I would just do a straightforward review on the latest releases and some of the older features as well. And to basically summarize it all up, basically, I'm the guy who talks about cartoons on the internet with the orange fedora. That's
Nice.
basically the best way to sum it up.
Perfect.
So what sparked your love of animation? Is this something ever since you were a child that you loved, or?
Yeah, it was ever since I was a kid growing up. Like, I was like any other kid where I would just continuously watch cartoons, but I guess it wouldn't be until one life changing trip to Walt Disney World that kind of immediately made me a Disney fan. And then that's when I started to be more interested in stuff like their theme parks and especially their animated films. And then from that interest, it kind of grew into animation, where it just really set my life and really set who I am from there.
So how did you first start your channel?
I started all the way like I would like I don't know if veteran would be too
Yeah.
much praise of a word, but I've been doing this for like a very long time. I started all the way back in October of 2009 when I was heavily inspired by people like James Rolfe and Doug Walker at the time, with shows like The Angry Video Game Nerd and The Nostalgia Critic, when those review shows started to become very popular. And I remember with James, he had this one series called Cinemassacre's Monster Madness, where he would do retrospectives of like classic horror movies and other films that would pique his interest. And during his beginnings, like he would start off, or at least the beginnings of Cinemassacre Monster Madness, he would look into shows. He would look into movies such as like the classic horror films, and even did one entire year dedicated to Godzilla called Godzillathon. And I thought to myself, wouldn't it be cool if there would be like a Disney version of that? And I decided for one major summer project in 2009 to do my own Cinemassacre's Monster Madness, but dedicated to Disney. And that's when I started off doing my first animation look back Disney between 2009 and 2010. It wouldn't be until a full decade later when I decided to go and do a full remake of it, which turned into what I could call right now my magnum opus, which is an 11 and a half hour documentary chronicling the entire history of Disney animation from their very beginnings with Snow White all the way up to Frozen 2. And I could not be any more proud of the work that I've done in there, along with the collaboration that I have made as well with other people involved, especially with Logan Miller, who is also known as Toucan LDM. He's the guy who is most known for making those little cartoons that are the My Little Pony Meets videos, where the My Little Pony characters would interact with like other pop culture characters like Batman, Spider-Man, Anna and Elsa, and many others.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's what's so exciting about our current landscape, that anybody can become a creator, that
Oh yeah.
you don't just have to participate, and it's not just up for the Ivy Towers and the published, critics to share their views. That anybody can. That from you have sometimes all you need is a phone, which is crazy, but
Yeah.
it's very exciting, I think.
Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely.
it's a double-edged sword concept, but it is true
Yeah.
that there is this great element to it where anyone can freely express themselves and gain, just be who they want to be and fully express themselves. It's basically it's basically the true meaning of like the moral of Ratatouille. Anyone can cook, and any cook can come
Yeah.
from anywhere.
Right. Well, very good. Well, let's start talking about Fantasia. And one of the things that I think so incredible about Walt Disney is you look at that golden era, the first era of films, and it would have been so easy for him to have just done a bunch of princess movies because the first one was a big hit. But could you pick more different films than Pinocchio and Fantasia from Snow White? Like, that to me just shows like a very bold thinker and somebody who wasn't willing to just sort of coast. And I really appreciate that about just the existence of Fantasia. I think is incredible.
Yeah, back then, Walt Disney was really all about innovation, like really experimenting with how far he could push the medium of animation. After his major success that he had with all the Mickey Mouse cartoons, he kind of shifted his focus a little bit onto what else he can do with the medium. How else could he go and really elevate the technology? And he has done so in many different ways, whether it be with the flowers and the trees, or with the old mill, with the multiplane camera technology, or even with the first animated feature film made in Hollywood, which is Snow White and the Seven
Yeah.
Dwarfs. After that massive success, now he ended up getting so much more money for him to go and really explore what else he could do, and once again really push it to the next level, which is what he wanted to do with Pinocchio. And Fantasia has often been considered to be his most experimental and also his most ambitious project. Unfortunately, it did not become a hit when it was initially released because it was too ambitious. They
Right.
wanted to try so many unique things that unfortunately it ended up crashing down, along with several other factors as well, but we could get into that
Yeah,
later.
with the war and everything. What do you think about
Mhm.
that, Stanford, as far as the ambition of the project?
Oh, I appreciate so much what you both been saying about this. Yeah, I think it's so interesting that Walt Disney really pushed his team in such interesting artistic directions. The This film is so surprising in so many ways and so avant-garde, and I think that's, from what I've read, and as Matt was saying, I think that was one of the things that almost turned off audiences. Right, they were expecting
Mm-hmm.
Snow White or Pinocchio again, kind of this animated fairy tale. Instead, they get this thing that's just so different and so unusual and kind of mind blowing, I think, in a way. And also, knowing that they had made it into a big deal, where with the whole Fanta sound, this audio system designed specifically for showing the film. And uh, anyway, it's one of those things.
Yeah.
I wish I could have been in the audience, back in the day,
Oh,
back
yeah.
in 1940 when this got released, and just to have that kind of experience and see what the people were were saying about it. It's interesting to know that, it really picked up steam with its re-releases, you
Yeah,
know?
Right.
yeah, but on top of that, like that would actually be really interesting as well because back when it was initially released, like it wasn't just it wasn't just like oh a big movie release from Walt Disney. No, they legit treated it like a full on concert.
Yeah, it was a
Yeah. Oh,
concert.
yeah.
Yeah, people had to dress up like in tuxedos, like in their finest gowns and in their finest clothes. They get brochures, they get pamphlets. The
Yeah,
cinema
there's
is
like a
all
program.
yeah, like a program. It's all the entire cinema is all decorated in the Fantasia style. Like it wasn't just a release. Like this was one of those moments back then when it was like a major motion picture event, and that's
Yeah.
what it felt like. It wasn't a movie. It was a legit event.
Well, I remember even when they did a re-release, I think it was in 1990. It was when I was little. I was 9. And I remember going to the Villa Theater in Salt Lake and seeing it with my mom and just being so proud of myself because this was like a big thing. Like this was a grown-up thing, Fantasia. And to get to go, special trip to see it was very special. And so I've always had a kind of a fondness for it. And when people say that it's boring, I I just it's just not my experience. I watching both of them this week, and it was so relaxing for me. I was just like so entertained, and it was just nice to have on and just enjoy. I don't know. It's interesting to me that it still feels special to me.
Yeah, Rachel, I had a similar experience. I didn't my school class went and saw it.
Hmm.
And I can't remember what grade I was in, but we all got on a school bus and when we went to the Villa Theater and watched it. And because we were studying, we were doing, it was some kind of music appreciation class that we had. And so it fit in perfectly because we had studied some of the music and then just seeing the movie,
Yeah.
I've loved it ever since, and I think it was just because of that. I was able, I think it helped having some kind of getting coached on it,
Yeah.
before, like, just instead of just like going cold, at least for me,
Yeah.
we were
Me too.
learning about it in school, and then we got to see it.
Well, and Matt, the Villa Theater, it was a special theater here in Salt
Oh
Lake
man,
that had double had balcony seats. It was very fancy.
Oh, dang.
Yeah.
it, it it at one point had a Cinerama size screen. I
Yeah.
mean, it's a huge auditorium,
And
really
it's
tall.
and it's the saddest thing in the world because they sell rugs there now.
Yeah, the
Oh, that
building still
sucks.
stands, but it's no longer a movie theater. And every time I drive, it's right by my house. Every time I drive by it, to
Okay,
this day.
okay, that is actually really cool though, but I'm going to say something that honestly, I can top that. Like there's one experience that I had with Fantasia that is possibly the best way that you could ever see it. It happened just a few years ago. Me and a friend of mine, we actually went to go see a legitimate Fantasia concert.
Oh, I've
This
heard
was
of
a
those.
Yeah, it was an official thing that Disney
Oh,
would go and do. That they would put up
so
they would put
rad.
up the movie, and you would watch it with a live orchestra playing it, and it's amazing. And what's very fascinating is that they don't just do Fantasia; it's actually a mix of everything. They do some of the more popular stuff from Fantasia. They also put in elements of Fantasia 2000, and they even did the deleted Claire de Lune sequence as well,
Oh,
as kind of
cool.
like as like a nice little bonus. And it was just phenomenal, just watching it with the live orchestra. And it's
Oh
the same
yeah,
thing. It was like it wasn't just in like an auditorium or anything. Like it was in a legitimate
it's in the
like
concert hall,
yeah,
right?
like in an actual concert hall.
Oh,
That
that's so
sounds
cool,
so
man.
fun.
I bet that was. Oh yeah. I mean,
Oh, it
talk about
was
unforgettable.
Oh, it was. Like I like just like you, I felt so proud actually experiencing it because like I said, it is the best way you could watch Fantasia. with a live orchestra
Mm,
on the big screen happening
Yeah.
right in front of you.
Yeah.
that's
Oh
so
yeah.
cool. I've the only thing I've ever done like that was years ago. The Utah Symphony did the night before Christmas,
Oh.
and that was pretty fun. I remember doing that.
Yeah,
Um,
the Utah Symphony also they did Singing in the Rain. So they
mm,
played the soundtrack for that, which was super fun, you
mhm.
know. But
It's
but
so great.
Fantasia would be the thing to see,
Yeah,
that Matt got to do
yeah.
because
It's so great when you can get kids inspired by both art and music in the same setting. I I remember the Utah Symphony also would have a Halloween night where a concert where the kids you got to go and dress up, and everybody was, and they did Peter and the Wolf, and that was really fun.
that'd be fun.
Yeah,
Oh,
I think
yeah.
that's so good when you can get kids to be inspired by music.
Yeah, that is true. And that's the beauty of Fantasia because, yeah, there are some people that might think it's boring and stuff like that, but that's because they have the wrong perception of it. It's not the kind of movie that you should look at it the same way as any other movie that Disney has done or that anyone else has done, like
Right.
Pinocchio or Winnie the Pooh or Frozen or Beauty and the Beast or whatever. Because Fantasia is more of a concept. It's what happens when you have classical music and that classical music is visually represented by animation.
Mhm.
And in Fantasia, and like, if I could jump into Fantasia,
Yeah.
there are three different types of different animations that they would do to present this music. The first one is completely abstract, that there's no story, there's no clear visual elements that people can understand what's happening. It's just like a bunch of shapes and colors mixing together and just moving all around. The best example of that would be the Toccata and Fugue
Right.
sequence that opened the first Fantasia. Then you got what I describe as the slice of life story. Now, there's no actual plot line going on, but you do see the life of the characters that do inhabit that sequence. Some examples include the Nutcracker sequence, where it shows you the changing of the seasons, or you even got
Mhm.
crap, the name escapes
The
me.
Rite of Spring.
Rite of Spring, yes, it shows the dinosaurs. The Pastoral Symphony is also another really good one, and one of my favorites that shows you the life of Greek mythical creatures and gods all living amongst each other. And even the Dance of the Hour, where you see a ballet happening, interpreted by different animals that represent different parts of the day. And
Mhm.
then finally, you do have the narrative one. Now, these are the closest that you can get to actual cartoons or actually have a story where there is a clear narrative that is going on, to which the music is what advances the plot. And of course, the most well known example is the most popular segment of them all, The Sorcerer's Apprentice,
Right.
as well as a good chunk of the Fantasia 2000 sequences that do follow that same type of narrative like structure for the
Mhm.
segments.
Now, one thing, and we'll dive more into those in a second, but one thing I wanted to talk about. So, when you're watching on Disney Plus, they have the cultural disclaimer, and the thing I don't really understand about that, though, where they say the program includes negative depictions and or mistreatment of people or cultures, and the thing I don't really get is this is the censored version, so I don't understand why they put that in.
I think
This not the uncensored.
I think it might be like the most that I could really think of is probably Nine on Bald Mountain. And it's not necessarily because of like the cultural depiction. It's like, oh, there are some offensive stereotypes, but it's like it's the factor that it's an actual depiction of hell, and like with that depiction, Disney did not hold back. I remember many years ago when I did that top 10 scariest Disney moments, I put it at the number one scariest spot because it's an actual depiction of hell, and they don't hold back in presenting like frightening imagery that could traumatize kids, or even showing nudity as well. Like the
But that
harpies, yeah,
wouldn't
they don't have bras.
but that wouldn't be a mistreatment of people or cultures. I think they were talking about the centaurs that they removed, but again, they removed them. What do you think about it, Stanford?
But yeah, when that, because I watched on Disney Plus for this rewatch,
Yeah.
and yeah, when the censor screen came out, or video came up, I was trying. I honestly, excuse me, but I just couldn't remember like even what was removed.
Yeah.
Like I had to really rack my brain, like, well, what did they remove? And like,
It was
oh, okay.
weird.
So yeah, I thought it was weird, and I don't know if our Russian brothers and sisters, or if our Chinese brothers and sisters would find offense in any of those depictions in the Nutcracker
Oh,
Suite.
Nutcracker Suite.
That could be
But
possible.
but other than that, I don't know, because that stuff with is it sunflower, or I can't
Yeah,
remember what
it's
they
Yeah.
sunflower.
call it, that got removed.
Is removed. Yeah, and so I
Yeah.
thought that was strange. But we should probably talk for just a second about the impetus for Fantasia. So Walt was meeting with Leopold Stokowski, and that's how because they had been working on their Sorcerer's Apprentice, but it wasn't. They wanted to add more to it, but then it ended up kind of ballooning into a feature film. Is that right, Stanford?
Yeah, that's the way I
Yeah.
understand it.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. If I can add more into it,
Please.
the original idea is that this is supposed to be a major reboot of Mickey Mouse. Walt Disney noticed that Mickey's popularity was massively declining, especially after the addition of new characters that kind of stole the spotlight from Mickey, like Donald Duck and Goofy. And then Walt Disney kind of shifted his attention aside to like some of his other projects, such as Snow White, especially, and even some of the Silly Symphony cartoons. But Walt did not want to let go of Mickey Mouse, and he wanted to find a way to bring him back into popularity, something like that would be massively spectacular. So after he had that meeting when talking with Leopold Stokowski, or Stokowski, whatever you want to pronounce it, but after he had that meeting, they had this idea of doing The Sorcerer's Apprentice. But after they kept on creating that segment, Walt realized that the novelty of blending classical music with animation seems like a great idea. And that's when they developed the plan for what was called back then the concert feature.
Yeah.
And that's when they
Mm-hmm.
would go and
Yep.
start things off by developing all these different ideas for what they can do for the segment.
Yep. And they had the recording over. It was in the Culver Studios in California for the session. It said that it began at midnight on January 9th, 1938, and lasted for 3 hours using 85 Hollywood musicians with Stokowski. Stokowski was paid $5,000 for his work on the project. And Walt said they've when she used the finest men from color down to animators on the shorts. And so, yeah, it had a pretty big attention to detail. And then they got Deems Taylor to be the master of ceremonies to introduce each segment. And yeah, it really does feel like a concert experience, not just a movie. And they tried to implement this Fantasound, but that became very labor intensive for the theaters. And
Yeah.
I think
Mhm.
the
Expensive.
I think the Fantasound even included like smells and things like that they would
Yeah,
That's what
walk
I
through.
can't remember the specifics of that, but I do remember reading something like that, they were really trying to make it kind of an extra special experience, an
Mhm.
extra sensory,
Yeah,
stuff.
I
Yeah.
don't know about the smells, but yeah, it was definitely ambitious with what they wanted to do with Fantasound, which basically, in modern terms, that is actually the origins of the surround sound system. To have sound appear in like every corner of the room, where like even behind you, you can actually hear the music coming out of like that specific area. So they want like Walt really wanted to elevate Fantasia into something that would be massively big, something that like you would not get this kind of experience from any other feature or like from any other cinema. Like to really make Fantasia this one of a kind experience.
Yeah, the idea was that it would be as if you were really there in the concert to hear the surround sound basically of the music. And so I think that's really cool. Again, probably not the most wise thing as far as getting your investment back, but
Well, yeah, and I think really limited the distribution,
yeah,
because yeah,
but
Yeah, because not everyone could afford the
yeah,
Fantasound system.
yeah. But it is cool that he was just such a bold thinker. That's what I really admire
yes,
so
Yeah,
much.
yeah. Walt Disney, he is always ready to make some massive risks, especially back then. But then again, you could say
Mhm.
throughout his lifetime because he still kept on doing those giant risks, especially with stuff like Disneyland.
Yep.
But back then, that was like that was pretty common for Walt to actually do. Yeah, it was absolutely insane and probably too ambitious even for him, but that's how he managed to be such a massive name in Hollywood. That's exactly what he did for projects like Mickey Mouse, for like the creation of Mickey Mouse, like where he bet it
Mhm.
all on Mickey and it actually managed to work out well with Steamboat Willie. And he did
Right.
the same thing with Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, where he just put everything on the line, including his house, to the point where it managed to work out very, very well, and Walt really reaped in the rewards.
Yeah.
So like after going through that, it's not really that much of a surprise that Walt Disney wanted to do something truly crazy and really ambitious, because for him, that's just another risk that he's willing to take, the same way that he risked on Snow White and on Mickey.
Yeah. And I was trying to think of who would be sort of the bold thinker, the kind of character that Walt Disney was today. And I honestly think that the closest that we have, and it's not he's more mainstream, but just as far as the leading a whole type, I think Kevin Feige's got to be your guy.
In a
That
way,
that I
yeah.
mean, he created a whole new type of storytelling and just sort of led with what he did, and I think that's as close as we have as like one vision, like that.
Mhm.
It's really, I mean, not exactly the same, but it was as close as I could think of to somebody that could be like that. But let's dive in to the shorts themselves. And it does, as you said, it starts with Toccata and Fugue in D minor, and this is the live action shots of the orchestra illuminated in blue and gold, backed by superimposed shadows fade into abstract patterns. Animated lines, shapes, and cloud formations reflect the sound and rhythms of the music. And Stanford, what do you think about this one to kind of introduce you to the whole idea?
well, uh, I quite like it. I mostly like the photography actually in this one. I love the lighting and how they project the shadows onto the walls and how that all was captured. And the way that the instruments were filmed, I think is so artistic and so beautiful. And the print that's on Disney Plus, I thought that the color was quite nice.
Yeah,
At least it looked
Mhm.
really good on my TV,
yeah,
and I'm longing to see it on the big screen, of course. But as always, but I and don't get me wrong, the animation is stunning. The way they do it, and I mean, and I love it, and it's just so. Anyway, I'm a
yeah.
total sucker for those opening shots with the musicians and all the shadows.
Yeah, you agree, Matt?
Oh, absolutely. I think, like, honestly, the more I think about it, the more that it's the perfect idea to actually start this movie with Tokuda and Fugue, mainly because this is immediately to set the standard of what you're about to watch. This is the one that says, this is not going to be like any other Disney cartoon or any other Disney movie you've seen before. This is going to be something that's totally different and a
Yeah.
very unique experience. And especially with this one, it's the one thing I would say that's a little bit disappointing is that we don't have as much segments as this that really does play a lot with the abstract animation where they're literally animating the sound. And
Yeah.
it's such a it's quite a true experience to see all this unfurl, to watch all the different colors, the different shapes appear as they play the music. Like it's a very unique way to truly immerse yourself in the music and to pay more attention to the music itself.
Yeah, I agree. They really only have this, and then as sort of our introduction to the after post intermission, they meet the soundtrack. Those are the two kind of most abstract
Yes.
Yeah.
segments. So then we have the Nutcracker Suite. This is selection from the ballet suite underscore scenes depicting the changing of the seasons from summer to autumn to winter. A variety of dances are presented with fairies, fish, flowers, mushrooms, and leaves, including the dance of the sugar plum fairy. And this one, honestly, of course I think of Christmas when I think of Nutcracker, and I'm a Christmas person, so I love that. But I think of Fantasia every time when I hear the Nutcracker Suite. I think of Fantasia because it's just so iconic. This, especially the Russian dance, I think, with the mushrooms, and I love it. I think it's great. What do you think about that, Matt?
Honestly, I'm kind of on the same boat as you because growing up with like nothing but Disney, whenever we would watch those Disney VHSs, I remember like a staple for for like most Disney Christmas videos, they would always include that winter segment of the Nutcracker Suite, where we would see those fairies dancing and turning the lake into a block of ice, and they would have like they would have snowflakes as their tiaras while they dance while going down. It's a very nice segment
Mm-hmm.
where they would go and see the different, like where you would see all the different ballet numbers happening, and you also see the like it's very clever the way that like they would even turn these little these natural elements into into actual dancing ballet characters. Like some are a lot more direct, like the mushrooms or the Russian flowers, or even like one of the more beautiful things that not many people talk about is during the autumn segment where it's just leaves and you see the leaves dancing as well. And that was a very nice segment, and
Yeah.
it really is fascinating how you could take like these nature elements and just keep them as nature elements, but you see them dancing no differently than like the other characters doing their little dance.
Yeah. What do you think, Stanford, about this
Oh, I
one?
love this segment so much.
Yeah.
It's probably my favorite
Mm-hmm.
of the original Fantasia. It is so gorgeous. I love, just as man I was talking about, the snowflakes skating. That is such an iconic image. Or I mean the
Mm-hmm.
fairies, skating on the ice. The But I love it start to finish. I think the animation is so stunning. I love that underwater sequence. It reminds me a lot of Cleo from Pinocchio, the fish from Pinocchio.
Mm.
But still, I just think I just admire the artistry so much. I love the Russian dance and the Chinese mushroom dance. Everything about it. I just it just puts a smile on my face. I think the other thing too, and you had mentioned this, Rachel, because I'm with you. I really associate the Nutcracker Suite, of course, with Christmas. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
but I thought that the way that the Disney artists interpreted it, it kind of turns it on its head, but in just this glorious way.
Yeah, I agree. All right, then we had The Sorcerer's Apprentice by Paul Dukas. This is based on Gunter's 1797 poem. Mickey Mouse, the young apprentice of the sorcerer Yen Sid, attempts some of his master's magic tricks, but does not know how to control them. And this is probably the most iconic of all the shorts because of Mickey. And it is the one that has the story. And it's delightful. It's so good, and I love the way that this short uses shadows and light. When he's turning a corner and all you see are Mickey's ears, and then he pops out after that. Like there's just some incredible details and of the mops and the the everything is really great. What do you think, Matt?
3 out of 10. Not enough water. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm just kidding. Of
How
course,
dare you?
it's my favorite segment. And also, I want to add, like, this is something that not many people have mentioned, but I think it is safe to say that it is one of the best Mickey Mouse cartoons out there.
Yeah.
It really is that iconic, but it's also really well made as well. And just add in a little trivia as well that this is the first time ever, or one of the first times, that we actually do see Mickey Mouse in that modern form. Because beforehand, Mickey Mouse was always depicted with with the massive black dots for eyes. But this is the first time that we actually see Mickey Mouse with with whites in his eyes and actual pupils,
Mm.
and even like with more color, that like his skin is more beige with the black than just literally black and white. But yeah, it's a delightful segment, just like you said. A great segment, follows the Fantasia formula extremely well to prove how it can also do well in terms of following a story and how to tell a story with literally no dialogue or even sound effects or anything like that. That they just literally follow the story of Mickey trying to be a young apprentice, but not doing very well at it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a
What's trying to take the easy way out? That's sort of the lesson of it.
Yeah, exactly. And it also shows a Mickey Mouse that honestly, it's very that we see a Mickey that's very rare to find nowadays, and it's the mischievous Mickey Mouse, the Mickey that like we see, like he doesn't always follow the rules, but at the same time, not everything really does go well for him. Like the only time that I could think of nowadays that we've ever seen that Mickey is during the Epic Mickey video games, and that's it. Not even the recent Mickey Mouse cartoons would depict that Mickey Mouse.
Mm.
It's a side of Mickey that is honestly very underrated, that many people have forgotten who Mickey is. Like nowadays people only think of Mickey as like the corporate mascot, but there was a time when Mickey had a legitimate personality, and that is one of the best examples of it.
That's a good point. That's a good point. What do you think, Stanford?
Oh, I appreciate what Matt's saying about it. I love this segment, and I never tire of it. And uh, yeah, I just think it's honestly, I just think it's
Mhm.
perfection.
Yeah.
And I love the character design of Mickey, as as Matt described
Mhm.
so well. And I really, uh, I probably my favorite part of it is when Mickey kind of leaves his body and goes, and he's dreaming where he flies out and on top of that mountain, and then is guiding the stars, or whatever he's
Yeah.
doing with manipulating space like that. And I just think that visual is just magical, really, and so iconic, and really just I love it. I
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah. All right. Then next they have The Rite of Spring by Igor Stravinsky. A visual history of the Earth's beginnings is depicted to selected sections of the ballet score. The sequence progresses from the planet's formation to the first living creatures, followed by the reign and extinction of the dinosaurs. And this is probably the most like epic of the sequences. I don't know. I guess Bald Mountain is as well, but I really enjoyed it. And you get a feeling that maybe this was more controversial back then than it is now, the way that they kind of talk about science and trusting science and stuff like that. I think.
Yeah.
What do you think, Sanford?
I uh, this sequence it is jaw dropping for me, but I don't love it. I mean, part of it is just because I just don't love dinosaurs. So sorry about that.
Jonathan
I
will be
just
so upset.
I know. Say sorry, Jonathan, and any other of your
These are-
wonderful listeners, subscribers who love dinosaurs. I just don't, and so, but I have such respect for the sequence. The music is so. I mean, it's so
Yeah.
Stravinsky, clearly. But it's just it's stunning. But yeah,
Yeah.
I just it's like, okay, when do the dinosaurs, when they
Matt,
go extinct, I'm like, okay, yeah, let's move on.
what do you
Sorry.
think?
This is the one that I've often heard the most criticism because of the fact that it is the longest segment, and sometimes it can feel a little bit long because it is like 30 minutes of slowly showing us the beginning of the world, going from like the Big Bang to the dinosaurs being extinct. But with that said, even with its length, it's still fascinating to see. It's basically what it is. It's dinosaurs. You see the life of dinosaurs, and it like honestly, when doing research about the making of it, it's actually truly fascinating how the animators actually depicted and how they made these dinosaurs, because you got to keep in mind back then there were no visual representations of how the dinosaurs walked, how the dinosaurs moved, or anything like that. All they had were just bones and just drawings of what they may look like millions of years ago. So they had to use their imagination and try to figure out how would these giant creatures would walk, or how would they eat, or how would they fight against each other. So it really was admirable the way that they try to figure out how these dinosaurs came to life. And they were one of the first to truly present dinosaurs coming to life and actually take it seriously. I know some people will point me to Gertie the dinosaur, but then again, I don't think people are going to agree to say that Gertie is a great visual representation of how
Yeah,
dinosaurs are.
very different style. Yeah,
Yeah,
That's true. That's a good point.
good
yeah.
point.
Maybe that's why they were like science so much.
Yeah, exactly. And there was actually a good period for many years afterwards where they would actually present this, they would present the Rite of Spring segment in schools to show how dinosaurs move, because back then that was the most that they had in terms of how dinosaurs are back then. The best that they
Yeah.
could visually present dinosaurs coming to life.
Yeah. All right. Then we have the intermission and meet the soundtrack, which is basically just symbolized sound. But it's fun. It's cute. It kind of feels like something you'd watch at Epcot, or you know what I mean, like in a little display sound. Kind of thing. To me. Um, but it's fine. And then we have the Pastoral Symphony by Beethoven, a mythical Greco-Roman world of colorful centaurs and centaurettes, cupids, fauns, and other figures from classical mythology is portrayed to Beethoven's music. A gathering of the festival to honor Bacchus, the god of wine, is interrupted by Zeus, who creates the storm and directs Vulcan to forge lightning bolts for him to throw at the attendees. Now, for me, this one would be my least favorite. And I don't dislike it, but I don't know. I just like the other ones better. Or this
Really?
one. Yeah, this one would be
Oh,
my least favorite.
crap. Honestly,
This is your favorite?
yeah, I gotta have to disagree with you there. For me, other than the Sorcerer's Apprentice, the Pastoral Symphony is actually one of my favorites, and well, a lot of it has to do with me personally because I actually do have a bit of a strong interest in gods and mythical creatures. Like when
See, I
going
never
in,
have. So I think that's why.
Yeah, that could play a factor, but it's basically taking that concept of like what we just talked about with the Rite of Spring, but you imply that with mythical creatures from Greek lore, and then you see all these different, you see all these different creatures coming to life and just living their lives. You just see the life of a Pegasus, or you see the life of centaurs, or you see how they interact with Greek gods. And one thing you do have to give it credit is that at least their depiction of Zeus in this movie is way, way much more accurate than the one in the 1997 Hercules film. Because, yeah, like in here, Zeus is just a dick. He just comes out like, hey, I'm going to mess up your party. Here,
That's right.
have some
Let me
lightning
start
bolts.
chucking lightning.
That's true. That's very true. Do you like this one, Stanford?
Oh, I love this one. It's probably my number 2 or number 3. It, uh, I part of it I think is the placement of it in the film, because by the time Ride of Spring ends, like I was saying, I'm really ready for something else, and the soundtrack is a fun little, way to break it up, after the quote unquote intermission. But the colors are so vibrant. I love mythology. And so I just think the way that so many different mythological creatures and gods thrown in it is just delightful, start to finish. And then the Beethoven music. I mean, I just think that the music is just gorgeous.
Yeah.
And again, really an interesting juxtaposition after the Stravinsky piece. So I absolutely love it.
So then we have the Dance of the Hours by Emilcar Ponicelli, a comic ballet in 4 sections. Madame Eupanova and her ostriches, Hyacinth Hippo and her servants, Elephanticine and her bubble-blowing elephant troupe, and Ben Alligator and his troupe of alligators. The finale finds all of the characters dancing together until their palace collapses. Did you know that was their names, Matt? I didn't know that until this podcast.
I knew that they had names, and I was aware of Hyacinth and Ben, but I didn't like. I didn't know about Upanova and Elephasine.
Yeah,
But
that was exciting.
yeah, this one is also really fun to watch,
Yeah.
mainly because I think we can all agree that this is the funniest segment of
Yeah,
Fantasia.
definitely.
Like, this is the one that Disney doesn't hide to add in some humor, because
Yeah.
at the end of the day, they are still animating cartoon animals doing ballet, and the ballet itself is a lot of fun to watch. It's also very well made, and even watching some of the behind the scenes stuff where they brought in some actual ballet dancers, including a plus size ballerina, to accurately portray the dance moves of the hippos. It's very well done. And like as I said before, like it's also a good segment to give out a good laugh. Like, one of my favorite scenes is like the hippo and the alligator, when they were starting to dance, and then like you see the hippo just like like getting ready to run really far. It's like, okay, I'm ready to catch you. Just flies out, like literally does a Superman jump, flies to the alligator, is like just splat, like like made the alligator completely flat. Like it's cute, and I mean, after going through like all the different segments, like having a nice little laugh, something like that is always great. Like, I remember when I went in when I was in the concert, they like one of the segments they did play was Dance of the Hour, and that was the one that got the biggest laughs.
Yeah. And I think you need it for it to be a complete experience. You can promise that you're going to laugh, you're going to feel emotion, you're going to just everything when you watch this. And if it didn't have it, I think it would be too much. It would be too solemn, especially with what comes next. Do you agree, Stanford?
Oh, I think it's delightful. And played for laughs. It's I think it's in a way kind of poking fun at ballet, which is such a serious artistic form. and but also paying homage to it, and just in just this hilarious way, and such a tribute to the animators, I think, because that they were able to make, an ostrich of all things, move the way, move like a ballerina,
Yeah.
and anyway, and just the character designs are so fun. Oh, I love it. And as you were saying too, Rachel, the placement's good because it's really helpful, I think, in the pacing of the film to have a good laugh before the final segments, which are pretty heavy.
Yeah.
Beautiful but heavy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so then we have Night on Bald Mountain by Modest Mussorgsky and Ave Maria by Franz Schubert. At midnight, the devil Chernobog awakes and summons evil spirits and restless souls from their graves to Bald Mountain. The spirits dance and fly through the air until driven back by the sound of an Angelus bell. As night fades into the dawn, a chorus is heard singing Ave Maria as a line of robed monks is depicted walking with lighted torches through a forest and into the ruins of the cathedral. And this one is actually my favorite because I love the contrast between the darkness and the hope of Ave Maria. And I think that is so beautifully depicted. And you think about the times in our lives when we are feeling in the depths of despair, and we're feeling Satan around us, and then that hope that God and peace and comfort and all the positive things that we associate with Ave Maria that gives us in those dark times. And then to me, this really captures that so well.
Yeah, and especially with how they presented it, ultimately it's supposed to be like the greatest battle between good and evil, and
Yeah.
what better way to get into that than something that a lot of people are very connected to, and that's regarding religion. Like literally have the devil battle against the light of God, and and the beauty of Fantasia, and well, the beauty of of those segments in particular is how they did not hold back on like presenting the good and presenting the evil in a way that that can be universally accepted. And that's also another feature is regarding the fact that like there is obvious religious undertones, but not necessarily going into specifics of what religion they're getting into. Of course, a lot of
Right.
people will associate with Christianity, but there is still a way that you could see it through other religions as well, like the greatest evil fighting against or like how the greatest good could conquer against the greatest evil. And especially with Night on Bald Mountain, as I said earlier in this podcast, I put it as the number one scariest Disney moment, and it's especially how they would present hell, how they pretty much did not hold back in presenting dark imagery and showing like the evils of hell with all like the dark characters, especially when it comes to the designs as well, like how they really they took it a lot more seriously in terms of the designs, depicting them a lot more realistically, presenting them in more gruesome, like it's really meant to like get fear out of people with this style that they wanted to do. And then you go into to Ave Maria, where you can feel the presence, where it's a little more abstract, and there is that style that is based on like Christian art that or like or stain painted windows that you would find in churches and stuff like that. But there is still that element that you feel like like it's that you feel like you're in the presence of this great good. Like if they're able to take down someone like Chernobog, like you're seeing something that's like you're basically seeing a miracle. And I think that's the best way to summarize the Ave Maria segment, is that it is a miracle. That it's the animation representation of a miracle. And I'm glad Disney didn't go all out on the religion, because originally they were thinking about like having like going into more into the zooms where you enter into a church, and the last image that you see is actually um, a picture of the mother of the Virgin Mary holding the baby Jesus, and that I'm glad they didn't do, because that would just be way too much, like hitting the nail on the head. You might as well like carve out literally on Bald Mountain, like after like you shine the light on it, Jesus was here.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. What do you think, Stanford?
It's a really stunning way to end this film, and it's such an emotional experience because Nine on Bald Mountain is so uh, graphic, uh, vibrant, and I'm with you, man. I appreciate your ranking. I think it is the scariest sequence, really. If you think about the whole Disney canon, but uh, and then I love the transition from the musical piece of Nine Ball Mountain to Ave Maria with the bell, with the like the church bell, right? Isn't that what?
Yeah, I
Uh,
love that too.
and
Mm-hmm.
and how it takes some time. It's not like it just happens instantly, and then just the transition and yeah, it's just as you both have said so well. It's just this wonderful treatise of good over evil or hope over despair, and you leave with such an uplifting feeling. And I'm glad too that they didn't make it religion specific. That they kept it open, that because it's human specific. It's just for the human condition, I think, and something that anybody could relate to.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. It's an incredible way to end the picture. And so now we are going to talk about Fantasia 2000. Like I said, this could be a long podcast, but
We're gonna jump
I
ahead.
really wanted to compare the two and kind of talk about
Yeah.
why.
Oh, it's great.
And so, all right, let's dive in to Fantasia 2000. And so, this was one that they had thought about doing for a long time. They had done little shorts, like the Little Matchmaker, or uh, like the Make My Music shorts, and they had done a bunch of different shorts over the years, but they'd never done an actual Fantasia movie. And some people call this a sequel. I don't really think it's a sequel because it's just a bunch of package. It's just a package film. It's not a sequel, but nevertheless, it is a anthology of in the Fantasia family, and so this was released in late 1999, and it was produced by Roy Disney, and it was released on the IMAX screen, I believe. And did you see it in the theater at Stanford?
I did. I saw it in IMAX in Southern California because it wasn't playing in Utah
Oh
when
yeah.
it first opened. So it I can't remember the number of theaters, but it was in limited IMAX theaters for 4 months. They had which was cool, and that they had set this window and did this signed this contract with the IMAX Corporation to do that. And so of course it was delightful. I mean, just to be able to see it on the big screen,
Mm-hmm.
and then with the amazing IMAX stereo. I believe too it was the first uh, animated feature released in IMAX format
I
too,
would
if I'm
believe
not
that. Yeah.
mistaken.
I
And
believe so. Yes.
I didn't see it until I've never seen it on the big screen, to my knowledge, to my memory at least, because I was in college when it came out, and I remember seeing Emperor's New Groove, but I don't remember seeing Fantasia 2000. What about you, Matt? Do you remember when you saw it
Believe it
first?
or Yeah, believe it or not, yes, it was actually on its initial release. Me and my family, we went downtown and we went to the IMAX that's there, and we actually went to watch Fantasia 2000. Like it was just a special little treat. Like my mom and my like I think my aunts were also there as well, bringing in my cousins. Like just like a fun little family activity to do downtown. Like
Yeah.
hey, let's check out Fantasia 2000 on IMAX. They do really cool stuff. And I remember one thing my mom told me to sell it to me was actually funny enough regarding the surround sound. Like oh, watch this. There's gonna be one part where you'll hear Mickey Mouse directly behind you. So yeah, like I actually do like it was actually a legitimate part of my memory that for some reason I remember going downtown to the IMAX to watch Fantasia 2000 on the big screen.
Cool.
That's cool. There's nothing like those early experiences of seeing Disney films. Uh, I remember seeing Little Mermaid, of course, when I was 8. Changed my whole life. That was the first movie that I really remember. That and Home Alone were like my big defining movies of my childhood.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
but uh, but yeah, it's kind of frustrating because I think this gets so close to being on the same level as the original, and it's still I like it. It's still worth watching, but just a few things they do that I think it's not at the same level as the original, and maybe that's not a fair
Oh,
standard.
I agree with you too, Rachel. I think it's imperfect. There's so much of it that I like, and I really did love seeing it on the IMAX, even though there was some stuff I didn't, love. I still, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Do you agree,
Yeah,
Matt?
honestly, yeah, I actually do. I mean, like Fantasia 2000 still did a really great job, but honestly, I feel like with the segments that they do have, it feels more true to some of the package films of the 1940s than actually Fantasia, mostly
Yeah.
because like we're going to get more into this, but the segments themselves are more like cartoons. They like I as I said earlier, they really leaned heavily on trying to make narrative type of segments instead of like going into the others, like doing the slice of life one or even going much into the abstract segments. It really is all about just going into making cartoons that anyone watching this would understand.
Well, and the celebrity the celebrity introductions, the narrators, they really add a feeling of sort of this is a TV special, not a
Oh
concert.
God, that's true. Yeah, like it feels. Yeah, it feels like you're watching like an award show. You know, you're watching like
Yes.
it's like you're
yes,
Yes.
watching the Academy Awards,
Yeah, it
complete
does.
like with the little skits and with the little with the little comedy bits that they want to try to add in order to be funny and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So,
It
yeah,
really does. Yeah.
yeah, it is true that like they really try hard to like lean in on the celebrity aspect and like it feels like that you're watching the Oscars in a sense.
Yeah, I think that's a very good comparison. So it starts out with Symphony Number 5 by Beethoven. Abstract patterns and shapes that resemble butterflies in various colorful shades, tints, and hues explore a world of light and darkness whilst being pursued by a swarm of black bats. The world is ultimately conquered by light, introduced by surviving archival recordings by Deems Taylor. So this is their Toccata and Fugue kind of comparison. Sort of start out with just abstract shapes.
Hmm. It's like a little bit of Toccata and Fugue, and even a little bit of Night on Bald Mountain with Ave Maria, because this is another
Hmm.
big battle of like good and evil.
And I do love the Symphony Number 5. Just that it's so memorable. Do-do-do-do, do-do-do-do, that it's almost
yeah.
like it needed to be a Fantasia eventually.
Oh, of
But
course, of course. It kind of reminds me of there's this like one bit in The Simpsons where like everyone in Springfield is in like they're watching a concert and the conductor was playing Beethoven number 5, and after that like very well known bit of like da 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 da, everyone just leaves. It's like, and then you see the conductor, wait, there's still more. And it's like, well, we heard the most famous part. We don't need the rest.
What do you think of this one, Stanford?
The music is stirring, and it's such of course just this such a well known piece, and I'm with you. It's just like it, if Walt Disney and his team back in the 30s weren't planning to use it there, or they had
Yeah.
been talking about it then, I would think that was a piece under consideration. I like I like again kind of the good versus evil theme going on, the light versus the dark, but I don't just love the segment, if that makes
Mm-hmm.
sense. I think that the animation is interesting, and they they did a good job, and also I think they used a lot of CGI. I mean, a lot of computer uh
Oh yeah, they have.
to
Yeah.
help it with which is cool. I mean, I thought it was used effectively. Like just that ocean of the black bats, or of those black things coming in. It looked cool. It looked cool. I don't love it.
Well, and we'll talk about this with the next one, The Pines of Rome, that this was a very precarious time for CG animation, the late 90s, where it
Mhm.
had that kind of
Yeah, exactly.
plasticky kind of look to it. And
Yeah.
it just dates so bad. If they had just done this in 2D animation, it would look so much better. I mean, even just a few years later, the animation looked so much better, the CG. By the time they got to like Wally, I mean, it's just night and day. But when they were in this
Mhm.
early 2000s, late 90s, that period was just not the best. It
That's
just,
true.
Nah,
Yeah,
there was a
that's
lot of really awkward use of CGI.
yeah.
Very rarely have we seen it work, especially in a 2D animated feature. Not everyone can be like the Iron Giant. But one thing I will say, I do kind of disagree in terms of Fantasia 2000, I do disagree in terms of how they used it for this segment for Beethoven number 5. And the reason why is because it's like, it looks fine because like they just want to keep it with shapes.
Mm,
It's like Tokata and Fugue, where technically it's not trying to represent something. It's just
yeah.
literally presenting the shapes, and that's it. With that said, it is a nice segment, and I like where they were going with it. I just wish they didn't use the narrative. Like honestly, if you just take out if you take away the story and actually go more in the route of Tokata and Fugue, and just go with letting the shapes and the colors like visually represent the music, then it would have been like a true standout segment right there.
Hmm.
But in here, it just feels like you're just trying to make it a cartoon where it's like, oh, it's a story of these little butterflies fighting against these evil bats.
That's true. The Pines of Rome by Otto Torino Respici.
Respighi.
A family of humpback whales are able to fly. The calf is separated from his parents and become trapped in an iceberg. Eventually, he finds his way out with his mother's help. The family join a larger pod of whales who fly and frolic through the clouds to emerge into outer space. And so this one introduced Steve Martin and Itzhak Perlman. And so this is the beginning of our celebrity interviews. And so this one, it would look so much better if it wasn't the CG. Like it's okay, but it would be way better if it was 2D. I wish it
Yeah,
was.
okay, that I will agree with you there because unlike the last segment where like it is technically just shapes and you can easily get away with using simple CGI with it, the fact that they are trying to use CG in order to present like detailed humpback whales, yeah, it does become a little bit awkward, especially like when you have the hand drawn eyes where it does
Yeah.
feel a bit out of place. However, with that said, one thing I will say, and maybe this might be a little bit extreme, but out of all the segments for the both Fantasia films, this one is the weirdest. Like this one, it just feels kind of bizarre watching like because it is Fantasia 2000, and like you're kind of used to having everything having a narrative structure, and then when you watch Pines of Rome, this one you just see whales and suddenly they're flying. How? Don't ask. It's just flying whales.
Yeah. What do you
Yeah,
think, Stanford?
You know, I think you both bring up really good points in that um the CGI is really noticeable.
Yeah.
And in fact, I feel like all of this and the CGI makes it almost more like a time capsule rather than timeless. It
Yeah.
really shows when it was made. Even, I mean, as if we need to know. I mean, the years in the title. But the it really feels that way, and I think that the celebrity interstitials add to that.
Yeah.
That again, just a time capsule that I think that overall, and particularly in this with this Pines of Rome sequence, and also this brave soldier sequence, which we'll get to, but that um, it's a little jarring. For me also, I I lived in Rome, Italy for a while, and I love that the Pines of Rome music,
Mhm.
and it's very evocative of the place. And I don't necessarily, I mean, I think that the animators were trying to do something, of course, very visually striking and very unusual, which they did. I mean, flying whales, but frankly, I would have rather have seen pines in Rome instead of flying and hand drawn instead of
Yeah.
CG flying whales. That's just yeah, just me.
All right. Well, next we have Rhapsody in Blue by George Gershwin, set in New York City in the early 1930s and designed in the style of Al Hirschfield's known caricatures of the time. The story follows four individuals who wish for a better life. Duke is a construction worker who dreams of becoming a jazz drummer. Joe is a down on his luck unemployed man who wishes he could get a job. Rachel is a little girl who wants to spend time with her busy parents instead of being shuffled around by her governess. And John is a harried, rich husband who longs for a simpler, more fun life. The segment ends with all four getting their wish, though their stories interact with each other without any of them knowing. So this is introduced by Quincy Jones and pianist Ralph Grierson. And this is my favorite of the shorts. It's probably a little too long, goes on a little longer than it needs to, but I just really like the style and I love Rhapsody in Blue. And so I think this one is the most entertaining of the group, personally.
I don't know if I would say it is my favorite of the bunch, but I definitely say it is one of the best animated ones. For me, I am a huge fan of the art style of Al Hirschfeld, and Eric Goldberg nailed the style
Yeah,
beautifully
he
with
really
this.
did, didn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, and it really does feel like an homage to that New York style art that really was defined by Al Hirschfeld himself, and watching it coming to life with a story that is not so great, but it is cute. I will give it that. Although I will say I don't know if it's because of the setting, but I will say like with the comedy that is also included and the setting that technically it is in New York, it does kind of feel a little bit like it's a Chuck Jones cartoon in a sense with the
I can
type
see
of
that.
gag. Yeah, with the type of gags that they do have and some of the characters that are also involved. Like I believe Chuck Jones. Well, I believe Eric Goldberg even had some experience working for Chuck Jones, so that influence might have rubbed onto this cartoon as well. But still, like the animation is extremely admirable. Like so is like most of the other, like a lot of the other works by Eric Goldberg as well. But definitely a great, definitely a great looking segment. I wouldn't say it's the best, but definitely one of the best animated.
Yeah, it's. I'm with you, Rachel. This was my favorite of Fantasia
Mhm.
2000, hands down. Uh, I I love everything about it. Just
Yeah.
as you both have said, I love Eric Goldberg's animation on it is just brilliant, and I love the piece of music anyway.
Yeah.
And so, just bringing it to life in the way that the way it's done, I love. I particularly love the color palette that was used. I love all the shades of blue that are used
Yeah.
both on in the backgrounds and with the characters. And
Which is
I always get a
clever
little
because it's Rhapsody of Blue.
and exactly, and I just by the by the time it's over, I'm just in a heap of happy. I love it.
That's great. Okay, then next we have Piano Concerto Number 2, Allegro Opus 102 by Dmitri Shostakovich. And this is based on the fairy tale The Steadfast Tin Soldier by Hans Christian Andersen. A broken toy soldier with one leg falls in love with a toy ballerina and protects her from an evil Jack in the Box. And unlike the original story, this version has a happy ending. And I think we can all agree, hopefully, that the Bette Midler introduction is the most cringy of all. It's so bad.
I never understand her pose. Like, why is she standing the way she is? Like, what's going on with that?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, and she's just like, yeah, that Dutch animator, that looked terrible. You're like, what?
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, ripping on this classic Disney art.
Glad we didn't get that animated, whatever. What? It's so bad. I hate it. People think I hate Bette Midler. I don't hate Bette Midler. I just think Hocus Pocus is super overrated, and I don't like the segment. So there we go.
Yeah, trying to put in comedy into this is like, nah, maybe not, Ben. Just introduce the
work.
thing.
Yeah.
And again, for me, time capsule, too. It's just like, I don't know. It just seems very much of the time period. And yeah.
You know what? Yeah, I do agree on that. And I mean, it's just, I would say that it's probably the most forgettable segment of them all. But one thing that I do find that is actually very interesting that I've seen people discuss about on the internet is regarding that Jack in Box. You know how Lord Farquaad was rumored to be designed after Michael Eisner after Jeffrey Katzenberg left Disney? There are some rumors that like a lot of people are discussing or have discussed regarding if that Jack in the Box was either modeled after Michael Eisner or Jeffrey Katzenberg.
Mm.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it could, but I don't know.
It could, yeah.
It is also a bit of a funny thought that even the animators want to do some kind of jab towards their executives or their bosses directly in the film.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think this one is fine. The animation isn't the best, but it's fine to me.
Yeah.
It's okay.
I think that the story is kind of fun.
Yeah.
I think, just this little soldier overcomes a lot, and it has a happy ending, which I'm glad they put that in. I think that that would be a real downer. didn't have that, but it's again not my favorite, and the CGI just doesn't look that great to me.
Yeah, it looks a little Barbie movie-ish to me.
Yeah.
Oh boy, a steadfast tin Barbie.
Yeah, I mean, I love Barbie movies, but I accept them for what they are, not Fantasia.
Yeah, not like Walt Disney feature animation.
Right,
yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
So next we have the Carnival of the Animals finale by Camille Sans. A flock of flamingos tries to force a slapstick member who enjoys playing with a yo-yo to engage in the flock's dull routines. Introduced by James L. Jones with animator Eric Goldberg. And this one is obviously trying to tap into the dancing hippos scene.
Mm-hmm.
And it's okay. It's all right, I think.
Honestly, as a kid, I've always loved it. When I first watched it when I was like 7 or 8, I actually really liked that segment because it's a funny flamingo cartoon. It was cute, so
it's cute.
It does have a nostalgic place in my heart. And even watching it today, it definitely is funny. It's just a short, quick, simple cartoon of a flamingo playing with a yo-yo. It's simple as that, and also the animation is really worth admiring too, because a lot like the Rhapsody in Blue one, where Eric Goldberg decided to step up his game by making an entire animated segment dedicated to the works of Al Hirschfeld. This one, the entire animation was done with watercolor. And that is a true impressive feat to make for animation. So I will give him credit to that. So for me, it's some people will just think it's fine, it's cute, but definitely funny. At least it does its job well.
Yeah, it's fun. What do you think, Stanford?
Well, I enjoyed hearing Eric Goldberg talk about it in some form or another. I'm not sure if it was on like the special features of the DVD, or what,
Yeah.
or what, something I saw on the Disney Channel, or who knows. But I just remember him talking about just the premise of it, just thinking when a flamingo with a yo-yo, what kind of how outrageous, and then I think they make it work. It's cute, it's short, maybe almost. I mean, not so much the joke. I don't know. I can't say it's almost too short, but then I can't see it going much longer either.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like it kind of runs its course, but still fun. But I think if I were to compare, I think I would take the Dance of the Hours.
Oh yeah,
from the original Fantasia over this.
Yeah. Well, so then they have the Sorcerer's Apprentice, and I think it was a real mistake because it just makes you realize that the others were better. Like, why do we have this one from the original? And, like, it makes a point of contrast that if they had just done a new Mickey short, wouldn't be there, and so I think it makes the whole rest of the thing not look as good. Plus, Penn and Teller are definitely the second cringiest.
Yeah.
The introduction. No doubt.
Oh,
I mean,
know,
come
right?
on. Right?
Yeah,
So
that is
true.
true. When they had to be contained in a family-friendly environment, they can't let out their best selves.
That's right.
Yeah, the whole thing doesn't work for me either. With Penn and Teller, the one thing about this sequence too that I remember distinctly when I saw it in IMAX, back in 2000, was I don't know what was going on. It just was not a real pristine digital transfer. And you could really tell. And I think that the technology has improved and whatnot, that wouldn't necessarily be the case today. If you were to see Fantasia in IMAX, or just probably on any big screen today.
Yeah.
So that was a little jarring. And then also just that you were saying, Rachel, that this is so much better than anything we've really seen. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, not the best move.
Then again, sorry, I just
No,
just want to add my piece. Though I would disagree. Where I get why they want to do that, because there was that tradition of the canceled plan that Walt Disney wanted to do. Because originally with Fantasia, Walt Disney wanted to release it like every year or something, but with every new release, there would be a new segment that would be attached. With Fantasia 2000, adding the Sorcerer's Apprentice is meant to be like an homage to that tradition, that it's meant to be a continuation of what Fantasia originally established. And I mean, I'm not going to complain. I don't think it's a bad move, because we're going to get the Sorcerer's Apprentice. What is there to really complain about?
Yeah.
We're getting one of the best.
Yeah, it's so wonderful. Yeah,
we're getting one of the best. I mean, technically, you could say the Sorcerer's Apprentice is the best segment of Fantasia 2000. So really,
but isn't that a problem? That's a problem. If it's the best, that's a problem.
Maybe a little, a little bit, but again, we're getting the Sorcerer's Apprentice. Is there really something to complain about here? Is it really a problem when we're getting a great cartoon?
Yeah, I just think it makes, if they had put either, maybe they could have put one of the other Fantasia shorts that wasn't part of the original Fantasia, like they could have put, I don't know, the Little Match Girl or Blue Bayou or something like that in instead. But
well, just to correct you, the Little Match Girl was done like after Fantasia 2000, so they couldn't add that.
Wasn't it? I thought that was in the 1990s.
No. That was actually made afterwards, when they wanted to do a third Fantasia called Fantasia 2006, but those plans were canceled, and those completed segments ended up in like several different DVDs. Like the Little Match Girl ended up in a Little Mermaid DVD, I believe. So,
Okay.
just to clarify.
Well,
it came out in 2006.
Yeah. My bad. But just to put one of those other ones that they had done, I think that might have been a better way to go, or I don't know. Who knows? I mean, yeah, it is always great to see the Sorcerer's Apprentice. I just think it makes the whole thing, the new ones look not as good, which isn't good. But anyway, let's talk about
Yeah.
Pomp and Circumstance, Marches 1, 2, 3, and 4 by Edward Elgar, based on the story of Noah's Ark from the Book of Genesis. Donald Duck is Noah's assistant, and Daisy Duck is Donald's wife. Donald is given the task of gathering the animals to the ark, and misses, loses, and reunites with Daisy in the process. And this one, I really like the animation. I think it's really beautiful. And I do love the meta moment when Donald sees like regular ducks.
Oh, that's like one of the
That's really
funniest things in
funny.
Fantasia 2000.
Yeah. But I do think it's a little distracting just because Pomp and Circumstance is so part of graduations. Like, it feels like a weird choice for Noah's Ark. Like, I don't know. But other than that, I do like this one. I think this one's fun.
Yeah, and by the way, just to quickly go back into the Sorcerer's Apprentice thing, that I do get what you mean, and I do see your point, because like when you have the Sorcerer's Apprentice there compared to everyone else, it just serves you as a reminder of, oh, I wish I was watching something better. But anyways, going back to the Pomp and Circumstance segment, yeah, it's another one that is also cute. That it is a fun, it's much like the Carnival of the Animals, it is a cute cartoon where you see Donald Duck in this Noah's Ark style story, and then you have like this cute little romantic subplot where he constantly misses Daisy, like trying to find her during the whole like flood in the Noah's Ark story. But oh my god, one thing I love about Pomp and Circumstances in this movie, it's not regarding the segment itself, but how it ended up getting there and the story of how it went there. Do you guys know about that story?
Mm-mm. I
I
don't.
don't think I
Oh,
do, Matt.
okay, strap yourselves in. This is
All right,
honestly
bring it on.
this is honestly one of my favorite behind the scenes stories for a Disney animated film. Okay, so the reason why Pomp and Circumstances is in there is a decision by Michael Eisner. During the time when they were making the movie, his son just recently graduated, and you know how graduations go. They always place Pomp and Circumstances, so it inspired Michael Eisner to tell the Disney people, hey, I think it would be a great idea to add this song to Fantasia. Find a way to go and do it. But he actually did have an idea of what he wanted to do. And instead of a graduation scene, he wanted to do a whole wedding scene. He wanted to do like this big ceremonial wedding with all the Disney princesses and all the Disney princes at the time, like Snow White, Aurora, Ariel, Cinderella, Jasmine, all coming together, like they're all getting married with their princes, and they're also all pregnant as well. Now, this idea
Oh my
absolutely
stars.
Shocking.
absolutely horrified the Disney executives, because number one, it sounded like the Disney princesses are all part of this really freaky ritual going on. And also, number two, it's the awkward notion of all the Disney princesses being pregnant while they're being married, because when you see the Disney princesses married, it will make the audience think about, well, how did they get married? Well, they just had one fun little night, and then this happened. It also really makes it even more awkward knowing the idea that, oh, right, they're pregnant, but they're also underage as well. So you got that freaking problem right there.
Oh my goodness.
So
Can you
immediately,
even imagine?
so after that reality that sets in Michael Eisner, he ultimately agreed that that plan has to be bailed out, and that's when they decided, okay, how about we do this idea of Noah's Ark? And originally it was just Noah trying to handle all the animals, but then they decided, as a way to make it another homage to the original Fantasia, kind of like to have their version of the Sorcerer's Apprentice, to add in Donald Duck as well.
Yeah.
Leave it to Michael Eisner.
Holy cow, Matt! What a story! Thanks for
He's-
sharing.
he
Oh,
Woo! It's amazing that the Disney Corporation made it through the Eisner era.
Those eyes, and particularly the latter half.
Yeah.
Holy
yeah,
smokes!
Oh my
it's just so
gosh.
fascinating to talk about with the Disney princess cult pregnant wedding.
It's crazy.
Oh,
It's a
Uh,
story that I discovered when reading the book Disney War, and since then it just stuck, and it's just the most. It was just so fascinating to read. It's like, oh my god, like, why would you even want that?
well,
yeah,
Stanford, what do you think of this short, the way we got it?
the way it ended up, rather than the Michael Eisner cut,
Yes.
version. I quite like it.
Yeah.
I think it's darling. I think, as you mentioned, the animation style is so good to me. It like is reminiscent of maybe a 1950s kind of Donald Duck. Yeah, with a lot of the beautiful depth that's done. It can be done at, or was being done at Disney feature animation at the time. It almost to me is like the one capsule of and if they use CGI, you can't tell, and so I wish that some of the other short, segments within it looked as good as this one does. At least to me, I think this one is, and it really captures again just I think the great animation style. I love how all the animals are drawn, and plus it's cute. I think with Donald and Daisy kind of losing each other, then finding each other at the end is just adorable.
Yeah. I agree. It's really cute. I like it. So, all right, our last one is the Firebird Suite by Igor Stravinsky. A sprite is awoken by her companion, an elk, and accidentally wakes a fiery spirit of destruction in a nearby volcano who destroys the forest and seemingly the sprite. The sprite survives, and the elk encourages her to restore the forest to its natural state. And this is introduced by Angela Lansbury. And this is my second favorite of the shorts. I think it holds up really well. This probably has the best animation of the whole film, as far as the new ones, in my opinion. I think it's really beautiful. Uh, what do you think, Matt?
Honestly, this is my favorite segment from Fantasia 2000 because not only is this the one that takes itself the most seriously, but this is the one that captures the spirit the most of the original Fantasia, where there is kind of a little bit of this narrative plotline going on, but it's basically the Fantasia 2000 version of Nine on Bald Mountain and Ave Maria, and everything about it is just absolutely beautiful. The animation is truly gorgeous, especially with this, especially with the way that they kind of pay. In a way, this whole segment is actually an homage to what happened with Mount St. Helens, where it was once a beautiful forest, but then a volcano erupted and it destroyed everything. But then, gradually over time, the forest kind of regrew itself and brought itself back to life, where now if you look at Mount St. Helens right now, like, it is a luscious forest like how it used to be. The entire segment is just beautiful. The pacing of it and even the music is the one that, like, it's really the one where, like, it really sucks you into the music and really gets into the emotion of what is going on. I remember this was one of the segments that they featured in the live concert of Fantasia, and I'm not
Oh,
gonna lie, I teared up.
that would just be
It it
stunning.
Yeah.
was
Wow.
amazing. It really was that good. So yeah, I really love this segment because out of all of them in Fantasia 2000, this is the one that truly captures what Fantasia is about.
Yeah, that makes sense. What do you think, Stanford?
Oh, I really appreciate both your comments. I'm with you. I this one is really high for me. It's either first or second. I still think Rhapsody in Blue is probably still my favorite, but this one I adore. I
Mhm.
just for all the reasons that you're saying, and uh, for me, in a way, it's kind of reminiscent of Studio Ghibli. In a way, to me, I almost
Yeah.
feel like it's. it's Disney's homage to Miyazaki.
Yeah.
It's kind of how I feel about it, but
I can see
and
that.
I mean that as a compliment. You know, I mean, I'm not, because I love it. I think that the Stravinsky piece is so striking. I can only imagine what that must have been like hearing that live, Matt. Wow, that would have been so cool.
Oh, it really
But
was.
the music is I think is so moving and so emotional. And I love the animation, and I feel, I mean, I kind of get a message out of this one, you know, that your life can just get absolutely torched, but there's something there, and if you believe it, if it's God or some other force of goodness that's helping you, there's that shot of the elk when he's looking at what do you call
The sprite.
the sprite, thank you. When he's looking at the sprite who's just been torched and just barely alive. And I get chills just thinking about it, because I just think the artistry that they were able just to capture that, you know, with no words and really no motion. That the elk, you can just tell what the elk is saying to her. You know, it's just like saying, "Get up, you can do this."
It's pretty much like Bambi is like, "Get up."
Yes,
Get up, little
exactly.
sprite.
It's like Bambi's dad.
It's true.
You know, and it's just so moving to me. And then when the sprite gets going again and the music is soaring, and and then that final shot. You know, they also, and I love how they linger on it for a minute after the music ends. You know, where I love it. I never get tired. In fact, I was thinking after this rewatch, I just thought, next time I watch Fantasia 2000, I'm just going to watch 3. I'm going to watch, and no interstitials, you know, no cringy, but Rhapsody in Blue, the Firebird Suite, and Pomp and Circumstance.
That is one thing about Disney Plus I wish they would change, is have scenes, you know, so you can go
Scene selections.
Scene selections, yeah. Because that would be nice to be able to do that.
Is that something that they do in streaming services? Like, does Netflix or Amazon have those options?
No, they don't. But it would be nice.
It would be extremely technical, though. Like,
it
would be a lot of hard work.
Maybe.
I'll just have to just fast forward, you know, just kind of do that.
But I may add that I think I just realized you really clarified something on like what really made what made the Firebird sequence like really good is that it, like, much like with the Night on Bald Mountain Ave Maria segment, it's a message of hope. That's what it is that, like, even in your darkest your darkest moments, there is that hope that you could still cling on to, that things can get better and that you can make things be better. So I think that's really the beauty of it, is that how it shows that hope can be real, and that, like, even when you're down and like when you messed up real bad, there are ways that you can still pick yourself up and that things can be better from there.
Yeah. Agreed. Well, we have some comments from our listeners
Oh,
about
yay.
these. Yeah. So I'll read some of them. So Matthew David Klein, he says, I appreciate Fantasia even more now. The music and sequences are amazing. My favorites, especially being Sorcerer's Apprentice and Bald Mountain. I especially like how you can see Walt's potential Christian values with the latter in terms of light overcoming darkness. Dave Lee says, the first is my favorite Disney animation of all time. It's an absolute masterclass in animation and storytelling through movement and sound. I adore it enormously. The second is great, but I don't love it anywhere near as much. Richard Southworth, he says, Fantasia, a very unique and entertaining experience. I loved the dinosaur and Greek mythology sequences as a child, but appreciate it all the more as an adult. Jonathan North, he says, the first is an absolute masterpiece. It was actually one of my favorite childhood movies. I know, weird, but I lived for the dinosaurs and Pegasus family. Jonathan came on and talked about dinosaur with us.
I hope Jonathan will still talk to me. Sorry, Jonathan. We're
How
still
much is he?
friends.
How much is he into dinosaurs? Is he like
Huge.
Aaron? Is
Oh,
he like Aaron
huge.
in Mitchell's versus the Machines?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Oh my god.
I love it just as much now as I did then. To me, it's an animated work of art. Then he says the second one is good too, but has more flaws, including but not limited to the absolutely unnecessary overuse of completely unfunny comedian hosts. Despite the imperfect CGI, I love the whales, and the Firebird suite alone is worthy of the original masterpiece. Let's see here. Movies After Work says favorite films growing up, still love listening to the music, and get annoyed by anyone who doesn't rank Chernobyl as the most evil Disney villain. Matthew at Dwarson says, blowed my mind when I was a little kid and still does now. A serious contender for my favorite movie of all time. These two sections, he has the Rite of Spring and the Bald Mountain, live rent free in my head. I'll read a couple more. Jacob Martin says, one of the best Disney movies ever made. Disney at their most artistic. The synchronization of animation and music is brilliantly mixed. My personal favorite segments are The Sorcerer's Apprentice and Night of Bald Mountain. And the Falcon, he says, it's good, a drag to go through, but still good. And Joe's Sonic Boom says the original is, of course, a masterpiece. The animation and the music perfectly match up. My favorite segments would be The Sorcerer's Apprentice, Nutcracker Suite, Night on Bald Mountain, Ave Maria, and especially The Rite of Spring. 10 out of 10. Says, and then my friends at One Kiss Meets Forever says, just turn it off before Night on Bald Mountain. This is my same recommendation from 30 plus years ago. So there we go. We had a lot of comments, so I couldn't read them all. But yeah, a lot of people really enthusiastic about Fantasia, so that's fun to see.
That is great.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And next episode, we are going to be talking about The Emperor's New Groove.
Ooh.
The random number generator has spoken.
Yeah, very similar to Fantasia. It's very so Matt, thank you so much for coming on and talking about these. This was so fun.
Hey, it's a true honor to be here. It was a lot of fun, and like honestly had a blast just reminiscing to my favorite movie.
Yeah. Well, so how can people find you and your content?
Okay, well, mainly you can go and find me on my YouTube channel, Electric Dragon 505. There you will find there you'll find like my videos, like my reviews, my history videos, and all that stuff. I'm also on social media as well. On Facebook, I got two pages. One is Electric Dragon Productions, as well as Matt Brunet Animat. And also on Twitter and Instagram, there is Animat. Just write down Animat 505 and you'll find me there. I am also on Twitch, where I do my own weekly podcast called Animat's Crazy Cartoon Cast, where I would talk about the latest and craziest news in animation and in entertainment, where I even had Rachel on board as a special guest.
It was so fun.
Oh, it really was.
Yeah. And Stanford, where can people find you?
On Twitter, I'm at Stanford Clark, and I have a movie podcast and blog at moviespastandpresent.com.
Great. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all of our social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. And you can follow this podcast at Disney Talking on Twitter. So make sure to check that out. And you can also find me at the Hallmarkies Podcast. Do a lot of fun stuff over there. So check that all out and let us know what you think of all the different things we talked about both films. We'd love to have your comments below. And thanks so much again. And we'll be back next time for Emperor's New Groove. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
See you later, dudes.